everyone, and welcome to the Ask Me Anything about upgrades to Guidewire Cloud. I'm Christy Miles. I'll be your host for this panel, I should say panel discussion, Ask Me Anything discussion today. And I have my esteemed colleagues here, one of my favorite teams in the entire world, and they've got all kinds of great information to share with you today. So this is our safe harbor slide, which I believe you have seen many times. I'll let you take a gander one more time. And our agenda today, we're going to be talking about meeting the panel, just a little bit about Guidewire Cloud. We'll be maybe touching on some topics that we've discussed in prior connections sessions. We'll do the open it up for Ask Me Anything, and that's going to be your opportunity to ask any questions that you might have, and you'll see we have a microphone up here. You've probably seen that in other sessions as well. We're going to invite you to come on up, and you can pull your mask down and ask the questions here. Since we are recording this, that'll be easier so everyone in the room can hear your question, the team can hear it, and so can the folks on the recording. Also, I'm sure you all have the app downloaded by now. You can submit questions through the app at any time, and we'll be taking those at the end. And with that, I am going to let my speakers introduce themselves. So we'll start with...
So my name is Blair Pyle. I'm with Guidewire for 10 years. I'm a solution director. My focus is data migration and the practice lead, and I'm part of the cloud transition team.
Hello, everyone. My name is Don Williams, also part of the cloud transition team. I've been with Guidewire for 9.5 years. I started at Guidewire doing Claim Center implementations. I've been part of the upgrade practice, though, for about 5 years now. And I currently focus on improving our cloud transition delivery model and our cloud upgrade estimate process. And we'll be talking about that in a few minutes.
What's up, everybody? My name is Mike Laconico. I am 2 months shy of 15 years at Guidewire. I've spent most of that time in the upgrade practice, and today I look after the cloud transition practice, and our focus is really looking at getting self-managed customers into Guidewire Cloud as efficiently as possible.
And as I mentioned, I'm Christy Miles. I am a creative director on our cloud delivery strategy team. Essentially, I work with our probably most technical folks and help them translate our vision, our messaging, positioning, all the stories that we want to tell into compelling presentations such as this, so we can engage you and entertain you and inform you. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Mike.
Okay. All right, guys. So where we'd like to start is just so you guys have some time to enter some questions via the app. We'll give you a recap of the last couple of connections just to make sure we're all kind of set a baseline. And the first thing we're going to talk about is CloudDirect. So why does CloudDirect exist? We realize that upgrade fatigue is real. Doing a major version upgrade is very tiring, and if we forced you to have to upgrade to InsuranceSuite 10 from InsuranceSuite 8 or 9, you're not likely going to turn around and go to Guidewire Cloud, do another upgrade to Cloud right after that. You're probably going to take 2 to 5 years to decompress after that experience and wait. So we made it possible. This is not just marketing magic. This is real, right? The ability to upgrade directly from InsuranceSuite 8, 9, and of course 10 to Guidewire Cloud. A lot of the work that happens, the configuration upgrade, the integration upgrade, database upgrade, does happen on target. It happens on the latest ski resort release on Guidewire Cloud. It does not. No work happens on InsuranceSuite 10 with this offering. Just like all good things do come to an end. We do plan on end dating the support for InsuranceSuite 8 and the CloudDirect journey. We're going to end date it with the F release. F release is called Flane. And Flane is due to release 1 year from now, pretty much. And we're in letter D, and E will be in May, and then F will be next November. So that means that the last possible go live from InsuranceSuite 8 directly to Guidewire Cloud will probably be in the summer of 2022. We have not set any dates for InsuranceSuite 9, and neither have we done the same for InsuranceSuite 10. Okay, next slide. Also, you folks probably keep hearing about cloud standards. And what are these? Will this impact how I do my business? Does it impact my secret sauce? And it really doesn't. Think of it as a building inspector would. We really don't care if you want to build a house with 3 bedrooms and 12 bathrooms, or 1 bedroom and 1 swimming pool. We don't care as long as you follow our cloud standards. And what are some things that we care about? We care about system uptime and performance. We care about information security and personally identifiable information. We care about logging and monitoring. We care about code hygiene and maintainability. So really, you'll find cloud standards related to those four topics. And really, it's got nothing to do with your secret sauce or your business rules or anything like that. Right? It's really how you've implemented how it's written. Okay.
So I suspect many in the room are aware that the database we use in Guidewire Cloud Platform is Aurora. So all of our customers will have to undergo a conversion from SQL or Oracle to Aurora. Previously, we had said that this conversion would take place 1 to 3 months after your initial go-live on your original database. This is no longer the case. We want to do that conversion on go-live weekend. This prevents the need for a follow-on release, which would prevent the need for additional testing. And it also eliminates some of the challenges around cloud data access that come from that when you're starting on Oracle or SQL and then going to Aurora. You only need to generate the Parquet files once, giving you access immediately after you go live, instead of having to do it once on your initial go live and then again after the Aurora conversion. There's also a note on the slide about the use of AWS Direct Connect. We strongly recommend that most of our customers use Direct Connect, and what Direct Connect is it effectively gives you a lot of bandwidth to upload large files, particularly your databases, to Guidewire Cloud Platform. We really only require this for customers with really large databases, but this is all discussed with you during the sales process and even before inception starts on the project.
So the next slide, this actually wasn't something, this is not a recap of a former connections. This is a new offering. So one of the first questions we get from customers when they're getting ready to make that transition is, how do I get started? How much is it going to cost? How long is it going to take? And so about 6 months ago, this spring, we came up with an offering called the Cloud Upgrade Estimate, and we call it CUE. And essentially, at a high level, the Cloud Upgrade Estimate is an evaluation or an assessment estimate on what it would take to transition your current implementation to the Guidewire Cloud Platform for a fixed fee, right? So that's kind of the key part to this here. And that fixed fee would include the upgrade of the code base, database upgrade, conversion, and the majority of the cloud optimization and testing effort, right? So there are some exclusions to that. If you have a need to consolidate 2 instances, that wouldn't be included in the fixed fee option. Or if you need to do segmentation, those elements, there's a few elements that wouldn't be in the fixed fee. But for the most part, if you're on InsuranceSuite 8 or later, including data products and digital products, you would qualify for the queue process, as well as most likely fit into the fixed fee project. One other thing I think most of you in the room would understand is that we've done the upgrade assessments. Start like a year ago. For the last 5 years, we've been doing upgrade assessments, and those efforts were consulting efforts that cost anywhere from $25,000 to $100,000, were 1 to 4 weeks time to do the assessment to determine what it would take to upgrade. Well, the queue is free, and it takes 3 to 5 days to turn around, assuming we have the free work in on time. So it's a newer offering, and it helps you understand what it would take to transition to cloud.
I like the anywheres. Where are you from? Anywheres?
Anywheres.
It's from New York. And the last slide before we get into open questions is, we realize that there is friction that we create with the things that you need from an existing customer transitioning to Guidewire Cloud that is not part of your Guidewire Cloud subscription. And we want to bundle that up for you as easy as possible. And we get 2 main flavors here, because you'll find folks who have no AWS experience at all and just need something that gets them going, like what do I need? It also A lot of you are very clever, and you want to throw ideas out there that we've vetted before, and most of them are kind of, we do want to get into cloud standards, right? The standard approach. We want to corral you into the things that we can support and operationalize and make it repeatable. So this is essentially what we're trying to get at with the standard AWS Foundation offering. So what are the small subset of things you need from an AWS accounts, control towers, et cetera, direct connect to, and our main concern is that you have a minimal deployment weekend downtime, right? It's not low, it's just that whole weekend, and we need it to fit because before, in the self-managed world, you've got database backup and restore and database upgrade and all that stuff. Now you've got a transmission that's involved too from your data center to AWS, which is adding considerable amount of time if we don't do anything about it. So again, this offering is intended to reduce that friction, to bundle everything up together. Various flavors, so folks who have deep experience and have already been working with AWS, so you may find we need a customized version of that in order to have a more comprehensive solution for you. So it's still in the works, not fully baked. Our intention is to either include the cost in our services SOW and eventually just include it in the cloud subscription itself. Okay?
Okay, and at this time, I will invite anyone to come on up and ask any questions that you have. You can also submit them via the app. We'll just give you a moment. Don't be shy. Come on down. Ask your questions. They're ready. They're so ready.
I don't know how to download the app, so I'm going to ask it here. So while you're upgrading our code base, do you have like a standard amount of time that you try to freeze our changes, or can we make changes all the way up to the last minute?
Yeah, you want me to take that one?
Sure, please.
Okay. So we anticipate some level of change because the transition projects take so long, right, that there's going to be some level of change throughout the project. When it comes to specifically a freeze, we do look to do that as we enter stabilization. So that time frame could be 2 to 4 months. We'd shoot for that, but in many of the projects we've seen, we're taking kind of a production update on a monthly cadence throughout development, and then when we get into stabilization, we try to slow that down. Doesn't mean that we can't do it, but we do recommend against too big of a window. Right?
Yeah, we also try to generally line up our final maintenance release. So, for example, if your go live is in March of next year, we'll probably take Dobson as part of that that update as well.
Anyone else want to come on down, ask a question? I see quite a few in the app, but we'd love to have you come on up and chat with us.
Hi. My question is, how many direct upgrades from on-prem to the cloud have gone live, and what are some of the key lessons learned from those efforts?
I like that lessons learned one.
Yeah, so total number that are live from...
so everything's kind of in flight.
Yeah, we've got transition that's gone live from Cloud Classic to GWCP.
We've got one that's gone straight from self-managed to GWCP. And then we've got a lot in flight right now. I don't know the exact number.
Almost 20 projects in flight.
Yes, and a couple...
various stages, right? So some are actually pretty close.
Yeah.
And then there's a few that are kind of still in that end of development phase, and a whole slew that are starting, that started last month and are starting this month as well.
We've got a bunch of go lives slated for the first half of next year, calendar next year, for slated to go live from self-managed to Guidewire Cloud. And then we've got a bunch of projects that are starting, as Don had mentioned, and there's also a bunch in flight. Yeah, it's just a timing thing. A couple of waves going on.
For the key lessons part, right? So there's a few different targets. So the first few upgrades we did to the cloud were to Cloud Classic, right? Not the Guidewire Cloud Platform. So that's kind of a first wave that came through, and then we did some classics to GWCP, and now we're doing mainly self-managed to the Guidewire Cloud Platform. But there's one kind of common thread across all of those, and as you transition to the cloud, so I guess a little bit of context here. The way we deliver our projects, we've moved from doing a standard implementation would have an inception first, right? You do your big planning session, then you jump into development. We found a few years ago that for upgrade efforts, it worked better if we did a bunch of the technical merge work first. We learned a lot, and we took those learnings into inception so we could plan development better and kind of a validation period, post-merge. But what that did was it actually shortened the development timeline after inception. So instead of 5 months, it was down to 3, maybe even 2 in some cases. And that put a burden on the customer side having to deal with the aspects of some of the third-party items that they had to prepare, plan for, that were dependencies on the project. So the project couldn't go live if we didn't have some of these endpoints set up or some web services that were created on the customer side, not the merge side, the upgrade side. So what we learned quickly was that we need to have that planning session sooner. If we did a technical upgrade, jumped into inception, the delivery part was short, and it didn't give them enough time to plan, staff, work with their third-party vendors to make sure everything was set up on time. So what we've done is we've changed our model to have more of that discovery early on. Actually, after the cloud contract is closed, we have an integration meeting and a digital meeting to do that planning up front, so that while we're in that technical upgrade phase, learning what's going on with the merge, the customer side could then be working on those dependencies and those endpoints and working with the third party so they'll be ready to go in time for that development phase. So that was kind of I think our biggest lesson learned across all those different waves or types of upgrades, was having the right amount of time for the customer to do their planning and be able to execute on that side of it.
You also mentioned digital next to the pre-planning stuff. Why is that? Why did you guys do that?
Yes, so digital had a similar issue. It's better because of the fact that digital is not a true technical merge upgrade, right? There's a lot of planning that has to go into it. There's a lot of requirements that have to be understood before they can start doing the transition from Angular to React front end. The components have to be mapped, and you have to. There's a lot of planning that goes in place and requirements that have to be done to try to get it to work smoothly. We moved that digital planning meeting up early as well, so that post-planning process can happen actually pre-project, and then we start the technical merge work, and then we can get into the development effort. But those are the two key areas, I think.
I think the interesting part with upgrades is all the various waves. Like the initial wave of upgrades was from self-managed to Cloud Classic. Then you got that little wave 2, which is Cloud Classic to GWCP. Then wave 3, which is the self-managed to GWCP. And I think when you look at digital, we had some interesting lessons learned there as well. Like, and I think when we first started, the guidance was that, since we already had requirements and we were just going from Angular to React and the UI looked pretty much the same, that we wouldn't need to go through another requirements gathering phase, to a reopening of the box, if you will, and kind of starting that whole conversation over again, that we would be able to contract the project because we know what it's supposed to look like. But I think where has that shifted since we had that position?
Yeah, so we were talking about more of a like for like and a scenario, and now it's more how does this implementation transition to Jutro, and how do we leverage the components that are in Jutro now so that we can move forward with the right pieces, as opposed to trying to make everything look like for like, I guess, pixel perfect. Pixel perfect. That was one of the biggest issues that we had.
I was in a workshop yesterday. It was pretty interesting because one of the feedback from one of our customer folks was his big fear was that marketing was driving the branding and how digital experience is supposed to look like, and although the executive team was saying, hey, go out of the box as much as possible, he just felt there was going to be a butting of heads between what marketing wants to do from a branding and how it's supposed to look, and what the original kind of guidance was just keep it out of the box as much as you can. And it sounds exactly like what InsuranceSuite looked like, the core system itself, the re-implementation of legacy and all that stuff. So I think it's the hardest thing we have to deal with from an upgrade standpoint for digital, I think, is that notion of pixel perfect. I think if we can't get past that, then I don't know if we can. I don't know. It almost feels like you shouldn't use our UI, almost. I mean, I'm not a digital person, but I do like to say things that are, what do I like to do? Provocative? I like to start things, yes, I like to start things. So I think if that is the case, then it will be a difficult road. If you're looking for pixel perfect, that transition from AngularJS to React is going to be a rough one.
Okay, we'll take a couple from the app here. Can you tell us a typical cost for an upgrade project?
Right, so there's lots of variables there. So of all the projects that we have going now, I think we've got about 40% of them are InsuranceSuite. So if we look at insurance,
Before you go there, like, how many customers do like Big Bang versus like one app at a time or something kind of different?
right? So it's about 40% do when they do the upgrade. They do
Like all or nothing?
all the
Okay.
applications,
Yeah.
right? InsuranceSuite application. And so if we were to look at an InsuranceSuite, so all 4 products plus an element of digital and Data Hub, those range typically from $2 to $4 million, roughly. But there's so many variables, right? What are the versions? What versions are you on? How have you implemented? How have you extended the product? What digital pieces do you have? How have you implemented that? So there's lots of variables there, but the range is about $2 to $4 million for InsuranceSuite transition effort. If you're doing a single X Center, again, depending on the version 8, 9, or 10, it could be anywhere from $500,000 to $1.5 million, roughly. $2 million would be on the high end, I think, in that scenario. Again, just depends on how it's implemented.
And the follow-up to that was, what is the typical duration?
All right, so timeline, again, based on those same variables, a short project would be in the 6 to 9 months range. Typical transition project, though, is around 12 months. Right, from start to finish, from very start of the project, all those pre-meetings, all the way through deployment's about 12 months.
Do you get a sense of how much time we're adding? Like, let's say they were going to go from version 8 to version 10. Like, how much time are we adding if they decide to go to cloud directly? From 8 to cloud instead of 8 to 10?
The delta's probably a month or 2, maybe. Not quite that much.
Not
It's
that
about it's about the same. Yeah. There's a few more pre-project meetings that we have to have, and deployment prep's probably a little bit longer, so maybe it's a month and a half, 2 months on average, larger, right, if you're going to insurance, to GWCP versus on-prem.
Your team size is not exactly the same either, right? But just the duration is not that much different.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And we have a Q question. Does Q replace the cloud readiness assessment?
Who replaced it?
Who asked that question? Yeah, so we've had, for those of you that have gone through some of the processes about doing cloud readiness evaluation and workshops and CTA, we've had tons of acronyms of assessments, right? So we had originally, we did upgrades without doing an assessment at all. We realized that was a bad idea. Mike actually introduced the very first upgrade assessment.
Might have been a bad idea.
Yeah.
Just jump into it.
And so the upgrade assessment we've had for a long time, and that's really if you're changing a major version, right, from 8 to 9, and then eventually obviously going to cloud. Then as we started the cloud transitions, we started to introduce cloud readiness workshops and cloud transition assessments. We had a CRE, cloud readiness evaluation. So the CUE replaces all of that.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're interested in going to cloud, the first step is to contact your sales, your delivery person, and set up a queue, right? Send us your code, we'll evaluate it and give you an idea of what it's going to take to get there. But that replaces all of the other assessments.
How long is the queue good for?
Oh, so, all right, so the queue provides you an estimate, and it's good for 6 months. And the reason why it's good for 6 months is because quite a few changes could happen. We haven't seen, so it could happen on both sides, I should say, right? So you could implement 2 new lines of business and digital, which you didn't have in the first queue, right? So every 6 months, we would require a new one. But also the changes could happen on our side a little bit. Our process improves really significantly on the technical upgrade side, especially for InsuranceSuite. So we've seen those times shrink considerably over the last 18 months. So that's why it does make sense to do, if you do the queue just for budgeting purposes, when you get ready, if it's 9 months later, do another one. We have to do another one. And our improved process will also help some of that benefit too.
And speaking of budgeting, how much do they budget for to get a queue?
$0.
Okay.
So queues are free.
Great. Yeah.
Right?
So the key takeaway, get a queue.
That's the first step.
I'll invite anyone, we don't want to just take questions from the app, even if you submitted one in the app, come on up and we'll invite you to ask us directly. Anybody? Any takers?
You come up.
You said Cloud Readiness Assessment and many other acronyms are replaced by Q. How confident are you with the output of Q is going to be, give or take, about 70, 80% in line with what it should be? Because our experience was we did Cloud Readiness Assessment and we did Inception. The results are way different, right, after Inception. So, how thorough Q will be.
That's a good question. So you said your cloud readiness assessment you did, and then the Inception was greatly different? Yeah. Our tooling that evaluates the code base, right, has gotten significantly better over the last 6 months even. So with that, on top of the findings that we've had and the lessons learned, I think we've gotten considerably better estimating the overall effort. It doesn't mean that we catch everything, though. But we have, I think at this point, we feel quite a bit more confident than we were even 6 or 8 months ago. But that's another reason why we've also, two things, right? The queue is a fixed bid.
Yeah, we're fixed bid confident.
Right? So it's a little bit more confidence on our side and security on the customer side, right? But also we've moved some of those integration and digital meetings to pre-project to help us with some of those issues that cause some of the time delays, right? Setting expectations a little bit better about division of work and what needs to be done and when and dependencies. I think that was some of the other problems we had coming out of Inception, is that not that we didn't know what work had to be done, it's that some of the dependencies caused time delays in the project as well. So, but yeah, because it's fixed bid, we are a little bit more confident than we were before. We seem to be running with the projects that we're doing now fairly close to our estimates. Yeah.
Can I just add one thing?
If you wouldn't mind, if you could just step up so we could hear you.
Yes, we can record it, Josh.
Do you want to use this?
Yeah, that'd be great. Sure. So the only thing I would add to that, to what Don just said, was when we're doing these queues, our approach is to keep the fixed fee to scope of just the upgrade itself. We're not looking to do any re-implementations, new enhancements, things of that nature. So the scope is very tight to just focusing on the upgrade and addressing all the remediation items that are in the optimization backup. So that's also ties to our confidence level, what we feel the upgrade's going to take. If you open it up to doing new development and things of that nature, it's going to be very hard to be confident in those estimates. So that's why when we do these, it's very clear of what's the scope and what's not.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks, Josh. Well said.
Thank you. Questions? Come on up. All right, from the app, what are some things that we should consider before moving to cloud?
It's me again.
I think so, yeah. What are you doing all talking, Don?
Well, the first thing you should do is a queue, right? I think we established that. Definitely should do a queue. Another area to focus on is database issues, right? So you should have in place currently, you should be running the database consistency checks on a regular basis. Data distribution, schema verification, you should understand the quality of data you have in your database. And those are areas that you can definitely attack prior to transitioning.
Another note on the database side, sorry, Don.
No, go ahead.
Is the database pruning process. We want to make sure your database is also as small as possible so that you're getting rid of extraneous data. So we've got a standard published out there that talks about the process you need to follow to prune certain data from the database. So we want you to review that and act appropriately.
So just follow on with the standards bit, right? So when you do the queue, you get an optimization backlog, which most of the items in there have a documented standard against. So all the issues that we find, we not only tell you at a high level what the issue is, but we supply files that have every resource in your code base that has that issue. And then there's a standard number applied to most of them, not everyone, but most of them have it. And so you can look up the standard and see what the standard is, how to solve it, what the workarounds are, and how to implement the change. And so those are things you can take care of right now. Majority of them, not all of them, sorry, not every one of them. Some of them only apply to when you get to the cloud platform, but the majority of them you can attack now.
When you look at the pre-work, like the things to do before the project starts, does it get more or less than what it used to be?
I would say it's less than.
It feels like way.
Yeah,
Feels that
what
way.
we used to. Yeah, when we would give an upgrade, hey, do
Yeah.
all this stuff before we
Which,
even
yeah,
do the upgrade.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's better now, definitely.
Mike, maybe you should bring up some of the stuff that we've reduced with respect to the DBCCs.
Oh, yeah,
'cause-
sure. So the latest run of database consistency check. So it's the original position, oh, you got to fix all of them, which I know you guys won't do, right? So we have trimmed it down to almost 2 handfuls. So it's maybe 12 or 15 across all of InsuranceSuite. There are cloud transition specific database consistency checks, which you or a partner can look through. The cloud standard itself has a bunch of knowledge articles that it references. We've curated them for you so you know how to get started on fixing these things, these specific DBCCs. You do need to fix them before the project starts if you decide to do the cloud transition work yourself or with an SI. We're trying to minimize the amount of cycles that we do for trying to get your database upgraded to the target release. So cloud transition, DBCC's definitely very recently revised. It's October 10, I want to say. So it's definitely much smaller than it used to be in terms of must fixes.
Can developers access the database in the cloud using SQL Server Management Studio?
The short answer to that is no, unfortunately. No one will actually have direct database access to anything in the cloud. In order to get access to the data, you'd need to use CDA and pull down the Parquet files off of S3.
Why is that?
Security. We need to make sure that your data is secure once it's in the cloud.
Any questions from the crowd? Anybody want to come on down and chat with our folks?
You mentioned that you want the smallest database, like to minimize your database for the upgrade. What do you mean by that? Archive some older claims? For example, if you have like 3 million in your database, it's a big database.
Right. So.
And I don't know how big it will be like in a year.
Yeah.
Sure.
So we don't require you to archive claims prior to going to the cloud, because a lot of our customers also want those archives moved up to the cloud. So archiving, I think you could sort of take that out of scope of the cloud transition. The database purging standard talks mostly about purging old message history, other batch process history, stuff to do with some customers actually store full document payloads in blob fields, and that's something that maybe we could look at removing because that can cause the database size to balloon quite drastically.
At what point do you start? So at what point do you start requiring Direct Connect from AWS, and at what point do you get worried? I guess.
Yeah, Direct Connect, as I mentioned earlier, is basically it gives you a large pipe, a lot of bandwidth to get the database up to the cloud quickly. Our magic number on that is 1 terabyte. So if your database is greater than 1 terabyte, our standards require you to work with AWS and set up Direct Connect. And that'll help. And if your database is that large as well, we actually separate the database move into 2 pieces about 2 weeks before go live. And obviously during any sort of dry runs, et cetera, you'll do this as well. But 2 weeks before go live, you'll take a full backup of your database, whether it be Oracle or SQL. The process is a little bit different between the two. You'll ship that up, you'll send it up to S3, and then our DBAs will pick it up and restore it in the cloud. On go live weekend, if you're using SQL Server, you'll send us a differential backup that'll be from since the last full backup, and then our DBAs will restore that. If it's Oracle, it is a little bit more complicated. There's a lot more moving parts because of some, I guess, compatibility issues, you could say, with using something like RMAN. So for Oracle, the process is 2 weeks before go live, you do a data pump export, and then we actually do change data capture from the 2 weeks leading up to go live. So on go live weekend, we just bring down the app servers, let the change data capture finish, and then you can start the upgrade process. There is a little bit more complexity surrounding the infrastructure for that, which is documented in our cloud standards. or you could feel free to reach out to me directly, and I can go through some of that. I don't think we should get into that here, though.
Like what downtime window are you planning around?
So our magic number that we ask all our customers is 48 hours. Whether or not it's less than that or potentially a little bit more than that, there's a number of factors. It depends on the size of the database for one, if we're doing all the apps on go live weekend, or if the customers are splitting them up. And the time it takes to actually run the upgrade process. There's also an encryption and decryption process. We're not asking you to upload your backups unencrypted. So yeah, there's a number of things that can go into that.
So I mean, I guess that's like one of the biggest differences between self-managed and Guidewire Cloud is that that encryption, the transmission, and decryption of that database. Yep. Like, I mean, what kind of throughput do you get out of Direct Connect?
So generally speaking, we would ask you to get a 10 gigabit per second pipe, which would give you, give or take, 1 terabyte per hour upload speed. Depending which region you're in a lot of regions in the US in particular, 100 gigabits per second is available as well, which will obviously make that quite a bit faster. If you have a small database, though, and let's say your data center has 100 megabits per second, that's probably fine as well. But it really just depends on the size of your database.
On the code scanning, is that something that is in the marketplace that we could do like a download of that? Or is that something that only happens as part of the queue process?
Right, so, yeah, so we would have to, you'd have to send us your code, and it'd be part of the queue process currently, and then we run our tooling on it. We're kind of trying to get there where we can have it so you can just upload your code and scan it, but we're not there yet.
Okay.
We're not quite there yet.
I think I've seen on the marketplace, there's a number of inspections, SurePath. Mm-hmm. So is that the same thing, or is SurePath something else?
So the inspections that they're doing, we are also doing that in our process.
Okay.
We're just doing more.
More, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But I recommend doing that on a regular cadence. Absolutely.
Yeah, we do start with the same jar file, though. The same jar file in SurePath is what we're using for our queue process as well.
You spoke about queue and fixed bid process. What does it mean for the SI partners?
I'm sorry, say it again?
What would be the role of SI partners in the upgrade process after they do a queue assessment, fixed bid queue assessment with Guidewire?
Right, so you want to talk about partner?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so when we do a queue and a fixed bid estimate, we're assuming at that point that it's all Guidewire, and we have a testing partner that we work with. So the fixed bid price is a Guidewire cost, right? But we've had several projects where we've done the initial analysis, but partners have done multiple aspects of it. So they've done the technical upgrade, or they've done, after we've completed the technical upgrade, they've done the delivery work. The role that Guidewire has to play, though, is what Blair's talking about in terms of getting your database up and upgraded and converted. Guidewire has to do that portion of it, and SI can do the rest of the project, though. Now, if it's an estimate, though, our estimate wouldn't suit if a partner wanted to do the work. The partner would have to do their estimate as well, right? Does that make sense?
Like if you got a queue and you wanted to go to a partner, the thing you get out of the queue is the optimization backlog.
Yeah.
You can do whatever, you can take it to anywhere, to shop around, et cetera. It's fine. And when we do, of course, realize that our customers have had long-standing relationships with trusted advisor partners, right? And we're not trying to take that work from them, right? It's just really, the queue in this case would just be a way to get the optimization backlog out and for the partner to be able to base their estimates off of.
Yeah. But we know that one piece that we still have to do, though, right? We have to do the database upgrade and conversion. So that's, Guidewire has to do that work regardless, again, because of security reasons and stuff like that.
Yeah, so there's three things that Guidewire will always own. Number one is a queue, which produces the cloud optimization backlog at a minimum. Number two, we're the ones who do the database upgrade. Again, for information security, we have a very small subset of teams who have access to a copy of your production data. essentially. And number 3, we're the only ones who do the Aurora DB conversion from SQL Server Oracle.
Yeah.
We've got about 5 minutes. I'd like to invite anyone else who'd like to come on down and ask a question. Welcome.
So we're considering standing up a new instance of Policy Center to run commercial on it. We've got the full suite now. We're not ready to take our suite to the cloud yet. Would there be any issues taking a new instance of Policy Center to the cloud with commercial on it and have it still tie back to billing and claims and contact manager?
Where's the, do you still have the first Policy Center instance?
Say that again?
You still have the first Policy Center
Yeah.
instance, right?
We'll keep it on
So you-
site for a little while.
Yeah, we could have a cloud version that would talk back to
Billing and
InsuranceSuite
claims.
on-prem.
CM.
Yep. And InsuranceSuite on-prem is version...
It'll be version 10 next month.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Not a problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the integrations would work. Sure.
All right. So if the commercial goes to the cloud, do y'all apply the SBTs on any kind of cadence also?
In the cloud?
Yeah.
I actually don't have a good answer for that. I'd have to check that.
All right.
See exactly how we do that. Yeah.
Cool. Thank y'all.
Do you have a plan to consolidate in the cloud?
We kind of already heard if we separate them, kind of already heard if we separate them, we don't need to try to put them back together later.
Okay.
So the intent is probably to leave commercial separate. So if we know the influx with SBTs is going to drive some change and quoting and the other stuff, we're looking at keeping commercial separate.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Was it implemented new on version 10, or is it upgraded to version 10?
It'll be implemented new on version 10.
Okay.
So the database should be nearly empty. So
Okay.
we're just discussing it. We don't know what we're doing yet. So, but next week we start that process to try to weigh the pros and cons.
If you could email me the SBT question, I'll make sure
All
I
right.
get back to you.
Great. I will. Thank you.
We'll just take this last question here. I'm on version 9. Do I need to upgrade to version 10 on-prem first, or can I upgrade to the latest version of Guidewire Cloud?
So CloudDirect will allow you to go from version 8, 9, and 10 directly to the latest ski resort releases on Guidewire Cloud. We have not end dated that CloudDirect support for 9 as we have for 8. So yes, you do not need to stop on IS 10 self-managed to go from version 9 to Guidewire Cloud directly.
Okay, we're coming to the end of our, one more question? Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of upgrade, right, moving from on-prem to Guidewire Cloud versus somebody who's on self-managed cloud to Guidewire Cloud, how different the path is, and is it relatively easy to move from self-managed cloud to the Guidewire Cloud? That's one. And second, why did you choose Aurora, and why not RDS? Why you want to narrow down? And third one is like, how do you get the data from your Aurora to on-prem database, for your testing purpose and data hierarchy purpose?
I want to make sure I heard all those questions. So can you say the first one again?
First one is the path for on-prem upgrade to the cloud upgrade versus self-managed cloud to the Guidewire Cloud.
Okay, so there's 2 instances of the InsuranceSuite, one self-managed and a data center. The other's already in a cloud, whether it be AWS or other.
Right.
Okay. And they want to consolidate in a single instance in Guidewire Cloud?
Yeah. Again, the path, right? Like we are seeing the upgrade evolve a lot, like when we upgrade from version 4 to 6, different tools, and version 8 to 9 or 10, the smart merge and all that stuff.
Are they all
Just
on
trying
at
to
least?
understand.
Are they all on at least version 8 or?
Version 9.
Version 9. Okay. So if we're consolidating in Guidewire Cloud, there's something that's available, or rather, it's early access now for claims, and Policy Center will get this tooling early access in Dobson. We've got something called Cloud Data Transfer for policy and claims right now, and eventually there will be something available for Billing Center, and that will allow you to actually extract data and upgrade it and bring it into the cloud instance without actually doing a database upgrade. It's a graph transfer. It does obviously involve a lot of complexity. It's a low downtime solution, but also a lot of change management as you are planning on how and when you want to move each segment of data. But that tooling is wrapping up development, as I said. So it's early access, Claim Center for Dobson, and then it'll be Elysian for Policy Center early access.
Okay. And at present, the upgrade, let's say I'm doing the upgrade of database from 8 to 10, right? It's, we make the entity changes and then bring up the server and then we fix all the issues.
Mm-hmm.
And depends on the customization, it could be easy, right? And in the same lines, if you are moving from the current version 9 or 10 to the Guidewire Cloud, is it relatively easy? You made it really easy, or is it like, do I have to really depend on a lot of techie guys to do that?
Do you want to take that question, Don, or do you want me to? Or?
Yeah. So, is it easy? Can you explain the rest of the part of the question? I mean, just going from 9 to 10 or to Guidewire Cloud platform?
When we are doing the, let's say, database upgrade, right, from version 8 to 10. Right now, once you are done with your merge process, right, anybody with a decent experience will be able to resolve your database conflicts and then get to the data. So in that same lines, if you are moving from on-prem to the Guidewire Cloud, how easy that process is to move my data from Oracle to the Aurora? Is it something that's well documented, or we have to rely on?
The move, the transmission of the database, that is documented as a cloud standard, but the conversion to Aurora, it's going to be an internal process?
We do have that document in a white paper, though.
Yeah, but you guys don't get to do it yourself, though.
Okay.
Yeah, but the upgrade process, database upgrade process is also well documented. Yeah.
Okay.
And from what we've seen with the ones that we've been doing currently, upgrading from 9 and 10 to the Guidewire Cloud platform is fairly smooth. The database upgrade process is fairly smooth.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So
the conversion process is separate.
Okay, with the existing training material and documentation, the existing developers is something that they can learn and then do it themselves?
Yeah.
To do the upgrade? I mean, in the cloud, Guidewire will handle that part if you do the queue process, and et cetera. But yeah, it is documented.
The Guidewire teams have to do the database upgrade to the cloud.
Okay.
Our teams have to do it. And
yeah, again, customers or partners won't have access to it for security reasons.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. And the last question, the Aurora, why Aurora and why not RDS? Just trying to.
Oh, it is Aurora RDS.
It's like you are saying that we'll have to move to Aurora from Oracle, or
yes, yeah, you will. Yeah.
So what was the decision and why it was Aurora versus why not?
Why Aurora? I wasn't involved in that decision. That's probably a question for the product management team or product development team. But yeah, I can't comment on that.
And you know what I'd suggest is maybe just, you guys will be here for a few minutes if you want to have more questions. Yeah. We're at the end of our time, so I'm getting a little light in the back there. So just stick with us. And thank you all for joining us. Please do be sure to give us your feedback on the app, on what you thought of the session. We have quite a few questions we did not get to. So will you guys be around tomorrow, the SurePath booth at all, the delivery services booth, if people have questions?
I think if we know who was asking the question, we make sure to post. We'll certainly reach out. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So, and feel free to come on up after the session here. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow for the keynotes.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, guys.